Today I have Robert Mack from the Male Academy. He's a gentleman I met recently that he has some really good content on I think what is sorely missing, I think in the men's space, which is leadership, right? You know, maybe you guys have read John Maxwell and have found like some leadership books, but it's really hard to find really good information on leadership, and I really like what he's been putting out. So I wanted to introduce him to you guys and give you a chance to ask him some questions about leadership as a man. I think it's really important thing that we do focus on as men is to learn to be leaders, to be good leaders, because you know a lot of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish in life, whether it be business, whether it be even in relationships, especially like women need leaders. They like men who lead, who take initiative, and that's also been, I think, a big struggling point for a lot of guys that I've worked with is they don't know how to lead. They don't know what that actually entails, and I think there's a lot of confusion around the idea of leadership of just like barking orders at people and telling them what to do, which is not really a form of leadership at all. But yeah, so welcome, Robert.
Thanks for having me on, John.
Or Goog as we call you.
Googs, yeah.
Googs. So maybe let's start off just by talking a little bit about yourself, kind of, you know, what your kind of view is, a little bit of your backstory, if you what you care to share.
Okay. So my backstory: I'm from Western Pennsylvania. I grew up just outside of Pittsburgh. I come from a very, middle class, mediocre family. You can call it middle class privilege if you want, but I mean, you're missing the point if you do. I was a pretty good athlete in high school, team captain, All-American, nothing substantial, but also nothing to completely write off either. Ended up playing Division I sports at a reasonably high level. Like my team was nationally ranked, in and out of the national rankings a few times. So definitely had some leadership experience on that. Went to a pretty good college, and then I've been working in and around government for the past 10 or 12 years. I definitely agree with what you said. Is one, the space is missing, real, sophisticated leadership discussion. And for as many entrepreneurs as there are in this space, you still have to deal with people. You can never remove yourself from the social dynamics that is life. So leadership is always important. The leadership literature is generally a mess. It's dominated or tainted by social justice warriors, clickbait, all the same things that most humanities are. And I think a lot of guys get wrong or put the cart before the horse by thinking that they can lead other people before they lead them. They learn how to lead themselves. So that's the approach I take. And I do it with a flavor of, masculinity, not the whatever, notions of masculinity that guys want to project about what they like about themselves. I'm talking about, what was masculinity, how it has symbolically evolved from 50,000 years ago. A great reference to that would be Jack Donovan's books. Yep. He talks about the masculine virtues: strength, honor, mastery. So that's the perspective that I take. And the reason I do that is because if you cannot lead yourself to accomplish a mutual goal, which is what leadership is. I mean, coercive leadership is what you were talking about earlier with, tyrannical, domineering, barking orders. I mean, that is a form of leadership, but it's dysfunctional because it's not. You can't iterate it across time. People don't respond to that over time, but it is a form of leadership nonetheless. But I digress. The self-development aspect of leadership is sorely neglected.
Right.
And the reason I believe that is because if I can't influence myself to accomplish a goal, how am I supposed to influence others when I have to deal with time constraints, resources restraints, knowledge restraints, egos? So it's just way more complex whenever it involves someone other than just yourself. And most guys can't figure it out for themselves. So they're in no position to be leading other people. And when they are more competent, they've got more of themselves to give to others.
Right.
And it makes what they do give, or what they choose to give, a lot more potent and a lot more effective, as opposed to bleeding themselves dry for other people and never developing themselves into more and actually becoming having more leadership capacity in the process.
So let's talk a little bit more about that self-development, like the self-leadership aspect, because I think that's so important, and it's something that's so lacking. I feel like there's a lot of guys today that they want to be the big shot, they want to be in charge, they want to be the leader, but they haven't earned it. They haven't put in the work in themselves to be that. Even today, I think there's a lot of, you see, you know, 20-year-old guys that want to be life coaches, and like, and teach people the lessons of life, and they haven't actually done the things, they haven't actually put in that work. What are your thoughts on that, and like, why is that so important to put in that work, and how do you go about this, leading yourself essentially?
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. You're only able to lead those who you're more competent in some way. So like a 20-year-old can lead a 16-year-old, but he can't be a life coach for a 40-year-old.
Mhm.
Like the 20-year-old just doesn't have enough perspective. He doesn't have enough knowledge to be able to give those sorts of to have that sort of perspective, to be able to know enough to influence someone that is twice as old as them. I mean, they might, but I doubt it.
Right.
So the way people can go about this is, one, figure out like where they want to go. Like I take all the strategies of leadership, creating a vision, articulating it, influencing groups. Like I take all that and distill it down to the individual, because the individual is a precursor to a group. So you have to create a vision for yourself. You have to figure out where you want to go. And then you have to create a strategy. A strategy is like a roadmap. And then the skills and the techniques are like the transportation method of how you get there. So using that analogy, you figure out where you want to go, you plan a strategy to how you're going to get there, you contingency map. So you figure out all the different ways that it can go wrong, and you work to mitigate those. You can't eliminate them, because risk is always, it's an integral part of life. You have to just be willing to incur a certain amount, and different people are willing to incur different amounts of risk at different points of their life for different reasons, because the world reality always gets a vote. So
Right.
you have to work to mitigate that. And to do that, you have to be able to look around the corner. And one of the reasons why 20-year-olds can't be life coaches, like they don't have enough perspective to look around the corner.
Right.
They haven't lived long enough for it. And it's kind of rich of me to say that, only being 30, but I've got some unique life experiences that are making me more and more, giving me more and more ground to stand on, to start teaching people how to influence others to accomplish a goal, which is the process of leadership.
Okay. Yeah, I like that definition of the process of leadership, of influencing others to achieve a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about for men, and just like the idea of, of what does it really look like true masculine leadership? Because like you said, I think I like what you said about how social justice warriors have kind of tried to take over the narrative on this, and I feel like it's a lot of like consensus driven leadership, which is not, in my opinion, it's not very effective at all. And that's not like true leadership. So what is the, what is the antidote to this? What is the actual form of true masculine leadership? What does it generally look like?
Well, masculinity is an important part of how men frame the world, is based off of competence, and competence creates hierarchies.
Yeah.
So it's a very hierarchical framework of leadership. And to your point, the social justice warriors have created more of a collective idea of leadership. And while that can be an effective strategy, it is not the end all be all of leadership as they make it out to be. Whenever you're doing something creative, like leading a creative team, and you have to be on even ground with everyone while you're brainstorming, so that people I hate using this word, but this is what the the literature says, is that people have to feel safe enough to talk about their ideas.
Mm.
I prefer to say leaders should make their people feel strong enough to talk about their ideas, which is another, masculine idea of strength.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but it's all about becoming competent, because think about, 50,000 years ago, the leaders of the tribe, or of the cave people, wherever we were living in caves 50,000 years ago, it was the most competent men. They were the
Mhm.
strongest. They were the most masterful. They were able to create the most significant agreements with other men and hold to them. Um, and and people want to see their leaders as special, regardless of whether or not, or despite how much people want to talk about, leaders should self-deprecate. I think it's nonsense.
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know self-deprecate behind closed doors, where you can work on your inadequacies, but in front of other people want to see their leaders as special. So develop yourself into someone special. Develop yourself into someone that's so competent that people see you as special. I mean, the most loyal followers out of any group throughout history have always seen their leader as like almost godlike, and they will
Right.
follow him to the end of the world. I mean, a lot of times those leaders ended up being, tyrannical lunatics, but the point remains, is that those people saw those leaders as something special.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. And I think that's one that makes people uncomfortable today, right? Because we get a message of false humility all the time, and it's it's the wrong message in my opinion, because a good leader, a good man presents strength and doesn't show weakness.
Hmm.
We all have weakness, but when we project our image forward, it should be one of strength, because that's what people want to see. Like, no, who wants to follow someone who has doubts about themselves? We all know that everyone does, but if you're projecting that image, that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in people, especially when you're asking them to do difficult things. I think, right? It's like, you're asking someone to make a sacrifice. You don't want them to, you want to be like, well, I think this, I'm not sure, I'm not an expert, but this is what I think we should do, as opposed to like,
Exactly.
you want you want them to have some confidence, like, okay, this guy knows what the fuck he's doing, and I'm gonna follow him because this guy is sure of himself, and I feel enough confidence in him to be sure of him as well.
Yeah, weakness doesn't inspire.
Right.
Strength inspires, and weakness doesn't make other people feel strong. It makes them feel weak as well.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think the whole idea of humility has been bastardized.
Yep.
Like, you can be humble, be knowing or acknowledging that you are not what you could be, and that there are things that you do not know. But that doesn't mean to show weakness. That just means you can admit whenever you don't know something,
Yeah,
and you don't have to show weakness to admit that.
I agree. Let's see. We got a question here. From the math nerd, $50. Thanks, math nerd. He says, I try to take more initiative, but have a history of being incompetent and giving up. Do I just need to grit it out until I get over the stupid? Thanks, y'all. What do you think about this one?
I think discipline is definitely better than motivation. But I also think that you need to work to eliminate whatever incompetence that you're referring to.
Hmm.
Instead of taking a gavel to your head and taking your head to the table every time you try to figure something out. Like, take a step back, figure out what's causing you to make these mistakes, and work to be disciplined about working to alleviate whatever the source of incompetence is. If you don't know how to, if you don't know how to roll with a black belt in jiu-jitsu, then you're not going to figure it out just by showing up to and doing live rolling sessions. Like, you have to go to the classes and learn different techniques. That's how you build competence.
Yeah.
That's an analogy I would offer.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I guess I would add to it to say that a lot of times too, if you think you have a history of being like, if you're giving up, it may not even be that you're lacking the competence. It may be that you're just not following through enough in order to see, because I mean, so many things in life I don't know the exact. I 90% of the shit that I do in life, I do not know the exact path that I should follow, right? But I have my intuition, I have my experience, and I go with my gut, and I go with the best knowledge that I have at the time, and I follow it through, and I figure it out. Maybe there's some shit that doesn't work, but I think a lot of that is just persevering through it, because anything that you do too, right? It's like you're first going to suck at it, and then you're going to get better over time. Like you said, if you find your deficiency, go and practice, go and find the thing to educate yourself so that you can build that confidence. But
I think one of the things that you just hit on too that I wanted to add is that, guys need to start respecting their own potential more.
mm-hmm.
That they've been told, or they have convinced themselves that they are incompetent or that they are incapable of doing something because they failed a few times before. Like, failure is part of taking on risk. And if you want to change your world, if you want to impose your will on the world, you have to impose your will on your world, and you're going to screw a few things up along the way, but see it through. That way, you know which direction not to go in the future. Like, it's you don't necessarily take losses. You take learning opportunities.
Exactly. Yeah.
I call it considerate tuition for the future.
Yeah. I call it you never fail except for when you give up, like failing with a capital F, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lowercase fail all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
to fail with a capital F, the only way you do that is when you give up. So those other minor steps along the way aren't really failures. It's only when you actually throw in the towel that you've failed. Up until then, you're just you're just going down the path, which involves missteps, and it involves the learning experience, like you said. So
I would argue too that if you're not failing with a lowercase f, you're not trying to solve big enough problems.
Yeah.
Like,
so many people,
you're stuck in the comfort zone.
Yeah, so many people set their standards or their expectation for themselves so low, and and maybe they achieve it instead of going, like, you should always be reaching further than you can reach right now, and that's going to involve failure. You should, if you never push your, one of the things, I always talk about on fitness stuff is, I'm like, have you ever pushed yourself to the point where you physically couldn't go anymore? Right? Very few people have. Right? It's like, have you ever run so hard that you could not run anymore, that you, like, it's painful to get to that point, but if you haven't done that, then you're living well within your means. You're not expanding yourself.
Yep. Two things I always tell guys is you have way more in you than you think you do. Mm-hmm. And most guys don't know that because they've never pushed themselves that far. And even when they get to that point, like, you quickly learn that you've got more in you. And secondly is, guys have to cultivate a mindset that they refuse to squander their own potential, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Some people, we're both a product of nurture and nature. So people have more potential than others. It's just how we were born. Like, I'm never going to be an NFL player. That's in my cards. Mm-hmm. So extrapolate that, to other men, is some men have more potential to be other things than other men do. But whatever potential you were born with, you have to refuse to squander it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing, because they always do those studies where they're like, oh, what do people regret on their deathbed? And it's like, the answer is always, I think, a bullshit answer, which is, I wish I would have spent more time with my friends and family and not work so hard. And yeah, I think it's a bullshit answer, because they ask that to people who are surrounded by their friends and family. I think, if you look deep, that the real answer would be, I squandered my potential. I did not live up to my full potential, because when I look back on my life, and of course I'm not on my deathbed, but the biggest thing that I ever regret is where I didn't fulfill my potential, where I didn't achieve everything that I could have become, at this stage. So
I agree. I mean, at this point in my life, and what I try to impart on other guys is the the I would rather be dead than average. So until that happens, whenever that may be, I'm going to live a full life.
Yeah. Yep. I
And
think that, yeah.
to our point, back to our point on self development, like, you can't live that full life. You can't live that above average life unless you put in the work to develop yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's going to take some stumbling around in the dark to figure out, what direction you want to go and what you need to work on. But like, you have to start swimming sometime. Like, no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
No one's going to develop you. No one's going to care about you like you do. And if you swim in the wrong direction, well, at least you're not drowning in the same place.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that perspective that no one's coming to save you. And, I think I was talking to Troy yesterday on his channel, and I was like, no one gives a fuck about you. No one.
No one cares. You're not that special.
Yeah. And it's like, if you can, it's almost like a harsh reality, but if you can accept that, then you understand that it's only up to you. No one cares if you succeed in life. No one cares if you get the things that you want. So the only person who cares about that is you, and that's the only person who's going to make it happen. Because I think so many of us rely on other people, and we think that's going to happen for us, or people are going to recognize us in some way. And it's like everything you have in life, you have to fight for yourself and get it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with leadership development. Is that people wait, guys wait. A lot of people do in the organization that I work in too. A lot of people wait to be developed as leaders. Now, and if interestingly enough, the leadership literature shows there's nothing to substantiate that self-development initiatives work or are effective beyond saving time and energy from the organization. However, if your organization isn't developing you as a leader, or whoever you work for or work under is not developing you as a leader, it's like, back to our point, like, no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
Like, what choice do you have? And then maybe if you do develop yourself as a leader, your organization will see the potential in you because you're performing better and actually take a vested interest in you. Like, why would I invest in you if you're not investing in yourself?
I remember when I first was kind of getting started, when I was in software development, before I had built a blog or YouTube channel or business or anything, I was doing my work, right? And I was improving my skill as much as possible. And I started to write some blog posts and things like that. But what I was waiting for was for someone to recognize me and then to anoint me, and then to say, hey, you should write an article for our magazine, or you should write a book, right? Or whatever it was, right? To be recognized. And I realized that ship was never coming. No one was coming to, no one was looking to see what kind of great things I was doing, and that I just had to just assume the role. And so that's when, I think things changed for me, is when I started saying, okay, fuck, I'm going to make it happen. Then I'm just going to call myself the authority, because I'm going to be the fucking authority by putting out the content, by teaching people. And then that's when, no one ever came, that moment of being anointed that I think so many men are waiting for. It's never coming. Like, you have to take the crown yourself.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys wait around for permission to make themselves better.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know what that is. I suspect a lot of it has to do with upbringing and, helicopter mothers. Maybe that's a biased opinion, but I suspect that there's some truth to it, and that guys just wait around waiting to be told that they should or can do something, or that they are allowed to do something. Take command of your life.
Yeah.
Because no one else is going to. And if you don't take command of your life, you will be a player in someone else's. Mm-hmm. Someone else that is more willing to impose his will in the world will make you a pawn in their life.
100%. Yep. 100%. Now, what about, let's talk a little bit about leadership in regards to women, right? As far as a man, I think this is one I see guys struggle with all the time, right? Guys maybe will build up the courage to approach they'll start having conversations with women, which is good. They've gotten the courage, but then they get into the conversation. They let her steer it. They're waiting for her to make something happen,
Mm-hmm.
like to suggest, hey, let's go to my place or something like that. They're not coming up with a plan. They're not taking that initiative. They're not being the leader. They're waiting for her to grab their hand and lead them to the bar or whatever it is. Like, it's like,
Or asking permission.
mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. And well, let's even back up further than that. So,
Okay.
So whenever you take on the responsibility of leading yourself in your life, you start to walk down your purpose, whatever path that may be. So you are already leading yourself. If you're not doing that, you're just kind of flailing in the wind. So whenever guys have that down and then they go and approach girls, like, that girl is in a position where she can choose to enter his frame or not. And to that guy who is developing himself and leading himself, it's not his problem either way. Either she can meet his terms or she won't. Either way, it becomes no longer his problem. And even guys that are, just doing game, like having an exit strategy in a night or on a date, that is a demonstration of leadership in and of itself.
Yep.
So guys do this. Guys have a haphazard approach to their life, to making their own life better. They say they want to be better. They wish that they were better. They look at, they look to resources to become better, but they never make it deliberate. And it ends up manifesting with women as well, that they take this haphazard approach to women, and that women can smell it. They can smell a guy that's on his purpose, and that, it's his reality, and they're just living in it. And oddly enough, regardless of whether or not what they say, that's what they prefer. They have a higher security need than men do. They're the weaker sex physically, and they've evolved to be that way, mostly due to child rearing. And so they want a guy that is able to impose his will on his world, because it's a demonstration he can impose his will on the world, which makes her better off.
Exactly.
And to discuss that even further, as far as like leading women, they actually prefer the more like tyrannical dominance than they do the consensus.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not coercion necessarily, but tyrannical dominance as far as living on your terms. Like, you're not the best leadership with women is not one that you control her. The best leadership is, this is my ship. I'm the captain. You can either follow me or you can walk the plank. Like,
right.
The guys that are looking for a first mate as opposed to a partner are the ones that have more success leading women.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. And so, I think what ends up happening, I think a lot of guys adopt that. They understand that, and then they think they understand it, and then their experience tells them that it's not true, because they say, okay, well, I'm just going to tell her, we're going to go and do this. And then she pushes back. Right. And she's like, no, you're not going to tell me what to do. We're not going to. Right. And then they crumble. Yep. Because they think that it's not working. Obviously, what's the dynamic? What's going on there? How should a guy react when he gets that kind of pushback?
Well, even that mentality of, hey, we're going to go do this, and she pushes back and he doesn't hold the line, that is a indication that he is outcome dependent. He is concerned with the outcome enough to where he is not willing to hold the line. And even saying, hey, we're going to go do this, like, it should be, I'm going to do this. Come with me.
Yes.
She's like, well, I don't want to come with. It's like, okay, fine. I'm going anyways. Like,
right.
I'm going out for drinks. I'm going out for a burrito. I'm going to breakfast. I'm making French toast this morning. You can help or come with me, or you won't. Either way, I'm going to do it.
Right. Yeah, I love that approach. That's I think that's the perfect approach to use that kind of phraseology, but also it's because you mean it, right? It's like, again,
It
coming
can't be
back to what you said.
fabricated. It can't be contrived. Like
Exactly.
it has to, and that all starts with the mentality of being, leading yourself and going in the direction that you want to go for yourself and not for anyone else. Like the guys that are more concerned with how a woman is going to react than what they actually want to do are the ones that are the first ones to crumble with that resistance.
Exactly.
And ironically enough, the guys that will stand their ground are the ones that women will follow.
Yep. Yeah. I totally agree. I think that a lot of that comes from the idea of really not caring about the outcome, like you said, that it's, which you kind of have to have that abundance mindset, which means you have to have other shit going on in your life in order to be able to say, well, you know what, fuck, I don't really care, like, if she comes or not. If she does, it's great, it's awesome. If not, it doesn't matter. I'll just find another girl. I'll just go do my own thing.
Well, and you make good point there with value. I mean, let's think about this economically. Economics is the allocation of scarce resources that have alternative uses. Well, value is another way of saying, energy or what you care about. It's what you choose over something else. There's a value, there's a hierarchy implicit in value. So you can only care about so many things. So you have to care about what you're doing more than you care about her response to what you want to do.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So, okay. So then what about, like, kind of getting to the details of, let's say, the typical kind of pickup situation, like I talked about, where, guy is opening up a girl, like after he starts a conversation with her, right? Or maybe even before then, if you've got something before then, how does he show that leadership from that point forward? Like, how does he start off with the interaction, showing her that he's leading the direction and being the leader in that interaction? Because I think a lot of times it goes the other way, and then he can't regain that. So how can he, best put that foot forward and make that very clear that I'm leading this?
So I think there's two fundamental strategies there. One is that he frames everything in a statement that I am going to do this, I will do this. And two is the questions he asks to the woman are qualifying. So it's a matter of, it's framing the question in a way. It's like, why should I listen to what you have to say? Or why should I use my valuable time and energy on you? That has to be the implicit nature of the questions, as opposed to questions that fundamentally presume or care about what the girl, like, actually wants to do. And I mean, again, that sounds tyrannical and domineering, but that is the product of a guy who values himself more than he values the woman.
Right.
And by doing so, he makes himself better off. And it's a demonstration of the guy that a girl wants to follow. And again, it can't be contrived, because the second you let up on that, she's gonna know something's up, and that's when she starts poking and prodding you, because she wants to know if the guy that she met at the bar is actually the guy that she is gonna spend time with.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So how does a guy become? Or shout out to John, Modern Life Dating.
Yeah, there he is.
So how does a guy become that guy? Because I think that's a hard one for a lot of guys. I see a lot of guys where they're afraid to say stuff like that because they're afraid of their reaction, the consequences of that, of getting shut down, or of basically blowing out the set. How does a guy get to the point? What can he work on to actually internalize this value system? Because it's one thing to say it and to hear it. It's another thing, for, like you said, that it can't be faked. It has to be real. How does he get to that point?
So I think the first thing is the vision that guys establish for themselves, the goals that they articulate to achieve that vision. That has to be something that's actually compelling and gripping. something that they actually care about, because those goals have to be superordinate to the female. Otherwise, you're going to care about the outcome with the female more than you are about achieving your goals. So again, back to the value, it's a hierarchy. You can't care about everything equally. You have to make trade-offs.
Right.
And the trade-offs that you choose to make have to be in your favor. And in order for that to happen, the goals that you are pursuing have to be compelling and gripping enough and valuable enough to where it's not even a question in your mind. It's no longer a debate in your mind which one you should pick. This is the direction I'm going. Follow me or don't. And then having that abundance mindset as far as what outcome you care about, and it's going to develop an abundance mindset with women, because your purpose becomes more valuable than the fleeting attention of a woman who's inundated with it. It's the only way to make them value your attention is by removing it. It's like, no, my attention is towards my goals. And coincidentally enough, it's your goals that become another female in her mind and make her compete with your time.
Yeah.
And thirdly, actually having an abundance of options with women, because if that happens, you're not going to care about the outcome with one as much anymore.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. It's like if you had like a bunch of scratch tickets, and it's like, you got 100 scratch tickets, you don't really care what happens with one of them. But if you buy one scratch ticket and you're like, this is all the money I have, this thing's better win tonight, then you're gonna. It's a much different feeling. Now, I think one of the sort of paradoxical things with that is that in order to have that abundance mindset, you've got to be willing to like blow shit up and leave things on the table, right? Like you said, it's like you got to be, if you're the guy that's like, oh, okay, I got to not screw this up, got to not say the thing that's going to piss her off, or you know what I mean, that's going to make the mistake, then you're not going to have very much abundance, because it's not going to work very well. But if you can be willing to let go and be like, I really don't give a fuck, I'm going to say what I want, she can react however the fuck she wants to react. And and that can get you to the point where you can actually do and say the things that you're saying, and actually mean it. I think, and I think that's a lot of challenge for guys that don't have the abundance yet, is like they have to do that in order to get the abundance, right?
Yeah, I would say so. And again, it's a value thing, and it's what you choose to put your time and energy to, and it should be you. You're the best investment you can make. The best investment you can make is in yourself. So it's two things. One, with other people, it's better to have friends than enemies. So you don't necessarily have to burn a bridge, but you also don't necessarily have to keep that person in your inner circle if they're getting in your way. Like people in your inner circle should be supporting you, and they should understand the context of where you've been, where you are, and where you're going, for you to care about their opinion. With women, you have to be willing to flip the table and ruin her day.
That's hard to do. But
exactly, because you have to be willing to withstand. You have to be the rock that's willing to withstand the storm of her emotions, and as a product of that. And I'm not saying that you should intentionally, or you should be looking for opportunities to ruin her day, but by you pursuing your goals, it's going to piss her off, or it's going to piss them off if you've got multiple, because they are competing for your time, and they do not like that competition anxiety, whether it's with another female or whether it's with your time. But paradoxically, like you said, it's when they do compete for your time, they value your time more because they've invested.
Exactly. Yeah. I see. I was just working with a guy that was sending texts. He was on dating apps, and a girl or two like flaked on him, or didn't respond. Like they're supposed to meet up somewhere, and she replied back, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," whatever kind of bullshit excuse. And then he was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Not a big deal. We'll just catch up later." And I was like, "No,
wrong answer."
Text her back and be like, "Yeah, that's not cool. whatever, I'm busy right now, I'll catch up with you later, or
Yeah.
something like, don't let her off the hook. Be like, yeah, well, how are you going to make it up to me, right? Like anything that, like, but that's the flipping the table, right? Because when you say that response, you're going to piss her off, you're going to ruin her day. Like, she's not going to be happy to get a response like that. But you have to be the guy that's willing to do that, because hey, you've been disrespected, your time has been disrespected. Like, you don't really think that's okay, right? You're lying when you say, oh, that's okay. And you're trying to avoid that conflict. Some of it, I think, is so much of it is like trying to avoid that conflict that so many guys are kind of wired to do. And maybe it is like just the feminist kind of society that we live in today, where, because that it's kind of a conflict avoiding mindset that so many guys have.
Yeah, I mean, so back to a leadership idea. The best leader is the wise king, right?
Yes.
Yep. He's got enough wisdom to where he can make the best decisions, but it's also his way. Yep. So that's the perspective you have to take. It's like, well, if a girl crosses you by wasting your time, it's like, okay, how are you going to make it up to me? Yep. You should be my loyal subject. Why should I keep you around? Why should I let you continue to live in my kingdom, which is my world? Yeah. And so what you said was flipping the script, which is related to flipping the table. My point to flipping the table was, you have to be willing to say and do things that is going to upset her. But flipping the script is just using the same games that she would probably use on you. I mean, right. When I go on dates, say I'm going on a coffee date, like, the girl has 10 minutes to show up. Yeah. And if she's not there in 10 minutes, I'm walking home with my coffee in hand. Yeah. Generally, I show up 10 minutes late to begin with, because it's my time and I can choose to show up whenever I want, as far as I'm concerned. Right. If I'm hanging out with a girl and she's 20 minutes late at, coming over to my place, like, I get on her ass about it. Yeah. Because if I would have known like an hour earlier, like, if I get the heads up, like, I'm not happy about it, because I could have planned my day better, but now I can plan a little bit better than I could have before. But 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, like, now I'm pissed, because that's 30 minutes I could have used for something else, as opposed to like waiting around wondering when she's going to show up. Like, hey, like, do not waste my time. Like, 30 minutes is a lot of time for me to get something done. And
see, a lot of guys, I was gonna say, a lot of guys, like, in that exact situation, girls coming over to their house, she shows up 20 minutes late, they're thinking in their mind, that, like, I'm annoyed, whatever, that she showed up late, but I'm just glad she actually showed up. And I better not piss her off. I'm not going to say anything about her being late. I'm just going to, whatever, laugh it off, because I don't want to fuck this up. And then she goes home and gets pissed off. But you're willing to say, you know what, fuck it. She doesn't like it, she can leave.
Yeah. Like, and I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to get on the phone with someone else.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's the abundance mindset you have to have. You have to have options, and you have to have options with women. You have to have options professionally. You have to have options personally. Because, I mean, think about it professionally. If you are so good at your job that you know that you can get another job the next day, how is that going to change your interactions with your boss? You're going to take on way more risk. You're going to be way more confident. And it's the same thing in your personal life, and it's the same thing with women. If you know that you can have another woman over your house in an hour when one flakes on you, it's going to change the way you interact with women. Like, I don't get pissed whenever a girl shows up late, but I do get on her ass. Like, do not waste my time. Yeah. Do not show up late. And if they continue to do it, they continue to be removed from my life.
So some good questions here, actually, from this guy. Sky's the limit. The first one is, he says, it seems to me you guys hate women. And then the second one, he says, what if you are late? Do you hold to the same standard? So I think these are worth addressing here. So let's start with the first one. Do we hate women? I'll let you take a crack at that.
I love women.
Yeah.
But I'm not willing to put up with the nonsense a lot of other guys are. Yeah. I mean, I love being around women. I love feminine energy. Like, I love a girl that's pleasant to be around, that's nice to look at. But just because I am willing to put demands on them that other guys are not, by no means makes me hate them. I mean, by girls putting demands on guys, does that mean they hate guys? Would you apply the same rules to that, or is this an arbitrary line that you're drawing because we are willing to be demanding of the women in our life and you are not? I don't know the answer to that. Sky's the limit. Only you do, but it's a worthwhile question. To your second question, which was what?
Here, well, let me address the first one too a little bit first.
Cool.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Same thing here. It's like hating women and having standards are not the same thing. Like it's about having standards. It's more about having respect for yourself than about hating anyone else. And you should love women. You should fall in love with women, but not be attached as guys. That's my philosophy, because it's wonderful. It's great, and women can be great, but you have to make sure that you're always valuing yourself first and your priorities and your mission in life. And that's what it comes down to. And it's just not tolerating bad behavior, right?
Yeah.
So many of the things that are, women, women behave in certain ways, what they are. To call them out is not to hate on them. It's just to be a wise man who has the knowledge of how women are. Not think of it in a malicious way. It's just, okay, when someone behaves a certain way that violates your boundaries or your standards, you let them know, whether it's a man or a woman. So that's my view on it. I think that it's, it's not, if you're angry about, if you're upset, if you're like, oh, I hate how all women are like this and it pisses me off, and women suck and they're all whores, and then you're in the realm of hating women. That's not what we're talking about. So
yeah, two things, man. Like to put succinctly what you and I just tried to say is that you should not conflate our respect for ourselves with our hate for women.
Right.
Hate, I rarely use the word hate. Like, right. I don't remember the last time I used the word hate, because hate implies an emotional response.
Mm-hmm.
And women rarely get an emotional response to me because I have other options. I don't need to be emotionally invested in a single woman or a single professional outlet even.
Right, exactly. Let's see. So the other thing that he said that was interesting, he said, what if you're late? Do you hold yourself, I'm assuming, to the same standard?
I hold myself to the same standards with other men, because that is one of the tactical virtues of masculinity, is men hold themselves to idealistic standards and hold each other to idealistic standards. Women do not have that same conception. Their standards change like the wind based on their emotions, based on what's convenient. And again, as far as I'm concerned, it's my world and she's living in it. So I will make the rules and she can choose to follow them or she can choose to not to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Pretty much the same answer. With other men, I'm definitely going to be on time for a business meeting or something like that. I'm going to hold myself to that standard. But when I'm viewing myself as it's my world, and and that's and you have to, as a man, otherwise, again, are you chronically showing up late? No, but you're not worrying about you're certainly not apologizing if you're showing up late. I guess that's where I would put it. But
nope. Like if I'm inviting a girl over, like if I say 7:30, like I'm ready at 7:30.
Yep. That
way I can, if for no other reason than I can get on her ass for not showing up at 7:30. But if I'm going out to a coffee date, it's like, it's right down the road. Like I'll walk over there when I want to walk over there. And like a lot of times I do it on purpose just so she buys the coffee first and I don't have to buy myself one. But that's another point.
All right. Let me see. Okay, so I think that's all that we had there. If you got some questions you want to ask, do the super chat so I can see your questions. Or I'm trying to look through, see if there's some.
Is there something about alpha? Isn't there something about alpha about not caring about time, like not throwing a fit over? I just saw that one. Yeah, definitely. And alpha is an abstraction, and it's really the mark of a competent man, and a competent man respects and values his own time. and has control over his emotions and his emotional response, even if he does have them.
Right.
So having control over your responses and your emotions is definitely an alpha trait.
And
Does it
it's
make
interesting.
is it the only thing that makes you an alpha? No, but it is an alpha trait for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because a lot of guys don't understand. I always talk about the whole idea of anger, right? And it's like, oh, well, do you never get angry? Isn't angry? And I think guys confuse it is because it's like, yeah, you're going to get angry, but you're not going to express your anger in an emotional form, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to take action that is going to be calm and cool and collected. Like, so for example, I mean, just the example that you gave, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if a girl comes over late, right, like 20 minutes late in that situation, you might be angry that she wasted your time, but when you express it to her, I don't think anger is coming out. I think you're coming out just as a command of just saying, hey, look, when you say you're going to be here, when I invite you over, don't waste my time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not anger that's coming out of you at that point. It may be coming out stern, but you're in control emotionally, right? As opposed to because a lot of guys confuse that, and they're like, oh well, I'm angry, so I told her, and then you're just saying the same thing. You're just angry, so you're telling her, but it's not the same thing, is it?
No, and stern is a great word, which is the word I use frequently. Girls are like, why are you yelling at me? Why are you talking like this? I'm not yelling. I'm talking to you sternly, and you're not used to it. And that it's actually a demonstration of more competent leadership to be able to address things that upset you in a stern manner, as opposed to an emotional outburst, which is symbolically feminine. Women do not want to see that out of you, because if they can get a rise out of you for showing up 20 minutes late, what else is going to get a rise out of you? What else is going to derail you?
Right. Yeah, because they know that's a button they can push now,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, even if it's a button that they don't want to push, it's demonstrative that you are not in control of your reality.
Right. Right. And if you're gonna be able to lose your emotional mastery over something like that, then certainly you're not going to be able to handle yourself around other men.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Did you Nomad says swim? Nobody's coming to save you. Fire wise in Gen soy. I like it.
Yeah,
Nice.
the thing about anger, I mean, most people have seen the movie Remember the Titans. Whenever Coach Yost is talking about how anger is good, but channeling the anger is more important. So I think a demonstration of a competent male and alpha trait would be the ability to channel your emotions into something productive.
Yeah.
That may be a step reestablishing a boundary with a woman, or that may be improving your professional competence.
100%. Let's see. We got something else from Sky's Limit. I think we might have different views on this one, so this might be interesting here. He says, you said, I never put any emotional investment into a woman. What's wrong with that? That's a vital part of that makes a healthy relationship. Being emotionless is in a relationship is sociopathic.
Yeah,
What do you
here we
think
go
about
again with the binaries.
that?
Um, yeah, let's not make a straw man argument out of this. And maybe you confused with something that we said, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt here. But it's not about not making an emotional investment. It's about being outcome independent.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I have an emotional investment doesn't mean I'm not outcome independent. Is that a woman's reaction is not going to dictate mine.
Right. Right.
So I can be emotionally invested in a woman, and there are women that I am emotionally invested in my life right now, but that is not dictating the course of my life.
Yes.
It is 100% sociopathic to not have an emotional investment in other people in your life. But that doesn't mean that their reaction dictates the course of your life or the choices that you make.
Yeah, I agree. I've got similar view. I guess we do have a pretty similar view. So there's actually a really good book by Zan Perion called The Alabaster Girl. Highly
Mm-hmm.
recommend you guys read. It's not it's not that well known in the circles, but I actually did a video that I recorded, which hasn't come out yet, on why alpha males should fall in love, was what I called it. And what I was talking about in the video was the idea that you should basically fall in love with every woman that you are interacting with. And when I say this, I mean it not from the blue pilled version of falling in love. What I mean is that you should give yourself 100%. You should fully experience that relationship or whatever, like not holding back, not trying to be like this super emotionless stoic person, but at the same time not like spilling your emotions out, not like a blue pilled guy, you know what I mean, but experiencing.
You can be emotionally invested and be stoic at the same time.
Yeah, but the key is to have a level of detachment, to be able to say, okay, I can fully pour myself into the person that I'm with at this moment in time, but if they're gone tomorrow, I'm okay with that, and I can leave it at that as well. And that's like that key. So I think that's what is really important. And so a lot of guys, they mistake it, and they're like, oh, well, I can never invest in a woman at all emotionally. And that's not true. It's just that you can't form an attachment, because when you form an attachment, and you can never form an attachment, because as soon as you have an attachment, then you have lost control. Then the emotion is in control of you, as opposed to you being in control.
Yeah, so I think I agree with what you're saying. Let me put it another way and see if it makes sense, and we're on the same page here still. And this is an awesome leadership tactic too. Is that you should invest in people, but you should not be attached. You should remain detached from problems. It's the only way that you're going to solve them. If you're emotionally invested in a problem, if you're not emotionally detached from a problem, you're never going to see it for what it is. So even if you are invested in people, in a woman, in friends, you should be. Otherwise, the relationships aren't healthy, and it's psychopathy.
Right.
But when their problems arise with those people, you have to detach from the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I could translate this into a sort of like combat situation, right? Like if you're a leader in a combat situation, maybe you're leading a group of men, you love those men.
Mm-hmm.
You actually love those men, right? They're your brothers, and you have emotional investment in them. But when it comes to make someone the point man and they have to go out and potentially die, you're also willing to make that decision, and you're not going to care the fact that you have a relation, that you're emotionally invested in this person, because it's what needs to be done. And when they fall out of line and they do the wrong thing again, you're going to apply the same level of discipline that you would to anyone, because you're not going to allow that to influence. And I could translate that exactly over to that. It's the same thing with women, with relationships with women. It's the same dynamic in my mind. That's kind of how I view it.
I would agree. And so we can take the combat example, or we can take the example with women, is that, by remaining emotionally invested in the problem, because you're emotionally invested in the person, you actually risk the other people that are involved, that you have other emotional investments in.
Yeah.
So it is you actually owe it to the other people that you are emotionally invested in, or the person that you're emotionally invested in, that you're involved in a problem with, to detach from the problem. It makes both of you better off. If there's a problem with you and the woman in your life, and you're emotionally invested in the problem, you're not going to be able to solve the problem, and it's going to affect your relationship negatively.
Yeah.
She may be, and that's how women think. They think emotions, instinct, emotions, then reasoning. But if you want to solve a problem that requires a logic train, you need to be detached from it. And it makes the people that are involved better off because of it.
100%. Yep. Let's see. We got a super chat here from Hypnosis for Men. All right. Shout out to you, man. Been seeing you showing up in a lot of live streams. That's awesome, and contributing a lot of good information. So appreciate that. He says, what resources do you recommend for developing leadership qualities? Books, courses, individual practices?
So I'm building a course myself. So stay tuned for that. But as far as books, I have a blog post on my website about my top 5 leadership books for men for this year. I would recommend Jocko Willink's book on leadership strategy and tactics. I think that's a incredibly useful and practical book. I would recommend Northhouse Leadership and Practice. That's more academic, but it runs you through all the different leadership styles. So it's a bit of a slog, but it gives you an awesome history into leadership, each leadership style. There's graphics, there's case studies at the bottom of each chapter that you can actually apply the theory to. And then individual practices for developing leadership. You have to be able to do honest self-reflection and self-assessment. You have to be able to see where you are to identify where you're going. And there's a lot of different 360 surveys and leadership surveys that organizations can use. And those are great. Those give you snapshots, but it doesn't necessarily say where you should go or how to get there. And if you're doing 2 snapshots in time, it doesn't explain how you've developed from one point to the next. So, and then leadership is also contextual. So being a leader in an entrepreneur endeavor is different than being a leader in corporate America. And then within corporate America, being a leader for a tech company is different than being a leader for a consulting firm. So you have to constrain your leadership development with the context of the organization or social system that you work in. And then additionally, there's a difference between leader and leadership development. Leader development is individual skills, communicating, reading, writing, interpersonal skills, business skills, and strategic skills. Leadership is a longitudinal process, meaning it develops over the course of time, just like leadership skill or leader skills do, where you accumulate knowledge and skills. But leadership is the capacity for a group to lead. So it's a collective. It's a interaction between leaders, followers, and the situation. So it involves coalition building, it involves networking, it involves team building.
Okay, and I just put a link to your post in the chat, guys. So if you want to check that out, he's got the books there.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, make sure you check out the get on Goog's email list. Go to his website, and then also subscribe to YouTube channel, and then you'll make sure that you find out when he puts out his course. I think it's gonna be really good because probably a lot of the stuff that you're hearing today here you probably haven't read in a book, right? Like it's not that well talked about. I think a lot of the watered down kind of leadership information that's out there is I think having something better than that is going to be really valuable to you guys. So
I'm also going to put my post in for leadership development. But yeah, I'm really excited about the course. I'm also going to work in the flavor of masculinity into that, so it's going to be tailored for men, and good. I think that's important. A lot of the leadership studies that are out there, and like Leadership Quarterly or like management journals, they are well done studies, but they involve cohorts of like a lot of females, and that men and women have different notions on leadership. And I'm not necessarily going to get into the debate of which one's better than the other, but I can tell you which one's been around for longer.
Yeah. Sure. No, what about real quick here? I think we should probably get wrapping up, but I did want to ask you specifically about leadership in groups of men, because I think this is another one that a lot of guys have difficulty with. I've had a lot of guys express to me ideas like, oh, what happens when, I'm with a group of guys and one of the guys starts making fun of me, or, things like that, where they're not really seen as the leader. They don't know how to take kind of the leadership position. In fact, not only are they not seen as a leader, but they're being tested by the group of men, and they're kind of being put into the lowest rank
Yep.
because of how they're reacting. What's the best way for a guy to develop sort of that ability to lead other men when he's in, random group of men? Okay, some guy becomes a leader. How do you become that guy?
Well, I would start with one, that men respect competence.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're being poked and prodded by other men, is that they question your competence. Because men spontaneously organize themselves into warfighting units to fight other, small tribes of cavemen. It's essentially what we do whenever we create groups of friends. So they are unsure of your ability to contribute to the group if something like that happens. Obviously, we live in a complex society. We don't have those problems anymore, but we're using the same circuitry in our brains to create friends groups. Furthermore, I would also argue that you should relook your group of friends if they're constantly poking and prodding you. Like, you want a group of friends that are high caliber individuals and that are on their mission, but also lift you up in the process. My friends that I hang out with, they do not undermine me in front of other men or other women. Mm-hmm. We lift each other up, even to the point of fabricating things about each other to a point. Like, we give each other soft tosses. Like, remember playing soft toss with a baseball into a chain link fence? Like, you want friends that are doing that for you in front of other men and women. So, and then thirdly, leadership is, like I said, is contextual. So you're not always going to be the leader in a group of men. You have to know when to follow too. And even if you're in a formal position of leadership, you still have to allow those who are most competent in a certain pursuit to take the lead, even if you are creating the strategy. So what that would look like is, like, my group of friends, like, we're all really good at what we do. One of my buddies is a super successful in real estate. I don't know anything about real estate. If I had a question, I would become the follower. And he would be the leader. If I'm talking about men's development, I am now in a position of leadership. So it's very fluid if there's no formal position of leadership. And like I said, even if there is, leading is not necessarily about knowing everything. It's about influencing a group of people to accomplish a goal. So, like, your brain becomes your weapon system. Like, you have to know how to use everyone and how to influence everyone in order to accomplish a goal you all want to achieve.
Yeah. Good advice. Yeah, that makes sense. Especially, I think about getting around the right people that lift you up, that rather than trying to fit in.
This guy, Galactic Buck, has an interesting question.
Okay. Let's see. All right. This one, is this the one you're referring to here?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh man, is this the same guy?
No, this is a different guy. Although he also has a Stoic philosopher. Oh, maybe he changed his name. I don't know. It's questionable. Wait a minute. If you change your name here, or you came in with a second account, then it's pretty ironic that you're asking this question. But
we'll give you the benefit of the doubt that it's not the same person.
Yeah.
But I never said lie. I said fabricate. Words mean things. First of all. Second of all, there's nothing insecure about my friends gassing me up if there's nothing they can say to inflate my already inflated ego.
Right.
Like, they are not gassing me up to inflate my ego. They are gassing me up to make me look better in front of others.
Yeah.
And you know what? If your friends aren't doing that, I suggest you relook at your group of friends. Because if they're not gassing you up, they're probably undermining you and you don't even know it. So who's the real fool here?
I think that's so important too. Like, I mean, heck, it's just a good lesson, right? When you meet someone, and especially if you know how to become really fucking popular and to really become the life of the party guy that everybody wants to be around and everybody has good things to say about. When you're meeting someone and you're introducing people, what you do is, instead of talking about yourself, you start talking about the people that you're introducing and gassing them up and talking about just how fucking awesome this person is. Oh, you have to meet, you have to meet Googs here. He's a badass. He teaches leadership. Like, this is a guy that knows. Like, you have to do that. And if you start doing that every time, you just get in the habit. Like, whenever you're introducing someone to someone else, that you gas that person up, you're going to become a very popular person very, very quickly.
That's an awesome networking skill too. Not to get us into that can of worms. Maybe that's another live stream we do. But like, good networkers don't connect themselves to other people. They connect other people to other people. And you do that. One of the ways you can do that, or one of the ways you should be doing that, is by gassing up the friends that you know with other friends. And it just makes people feel good about themselves.
Yep, exactly. All right, I'm just dealing with the troll real quick here. Okay, got their messages deleted.
There's always one.
There's always one, yeah. But well, Googs, man, it was awesome having you on here, and I think you've given a lot of good advice here. I'm looking forward to seeing your course, and I'm glad you got the YouTube channel up.
Thank you for having me too.
Yeah. So guys, check out the Male Academy YouTube channel, and also the website there. And anything else you got to say?
I'm just going to do a small selfish plug here. I'm going to put my link to my website in the chat again. And then you can follow me at _Male Academy on Instagram. And then please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and give this video a like for John, because he was kind enough to have me on.
Awesome. All right. Thanks again, Robert.
Take care, John.
Take care.